Good evening and welcome into Tennessee Volunteers Live on the Voice of College Football Network. Tucker Harlan and Jordan Binkley with you on this Monday evening. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Hope you're having a nice Monday. I know some of you are not having a nice Monday, especially if you're one of those crazy Tennessee fans who happens to think Bruce Pearl is the greatest coach in the history of Tennessee basketball. Some of you want him back here desperately, but he announced his retirement from basketball today, which is kind of a sad reality for some of you, of whom I am not one. But other than that, been a solid day. It's actually raining here now, which is something it hasn't done in like a month here in Tennessee. You know, we get that whole July August thing going on. And then it's just dry for a while, but here we are. We're finally getting some rain. The temperature's cooling down a little bit. We want those fall temperatures to come as quickly as they can. But that's enough about the weather. Jordan, how are you doing on this fine Monday?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just glad to be out of the storm because it has been very gloomy here, like you said. But yeah, just excited for the show. I didn't do too much this weekend. Just basically worked, watched some Tennessee football. How's your weekend been?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's been good. Watch the Vols play. I was gonna go to that game, and then I decided, you know what? Nobody wants to go with me. It's UAB. I would have to leave at 5 in the morning. That's not an exaggeration to get there in decent time, and then I wouldn't get back till about dinner time. So it would have been a brutally long day for yours truly had I decided to do that. But no, it was fine. Got to watch the rest of the games, and always good to get to do that, especially when your team is not playing against somebody that is going to draw a lot of attention, and not a game that your fan base is really going to get up for. Okay, one promotional matter before we get into the show. And again, I'm going to go ahead and drop this link in there so all of you can see it. But once again, we have merch here on the Voice of College Football website. You can take this link that I'm about to post in the chat, and you can buy you some Tennessee at the Voice of College Football merch. We would appreciate it if you gave it a look. I can share it with you right now. Share our merch, and we got all kinds of stuff here on sale at the Voice of College Football. Again, huge shout out to Mark Rogers and then Josh Mahler of our Oklahoma channel for making this happen. It'll pull up. There we go. Okay, so we got the hats. We got the trucker hat here. We've got a few different hats or color hats, I should say, here in the middle. You got a couple different grays, some black hats as well. Little tan one there if you want it. Got 4 different t-shirts for you: gray, black, orange, or white. And we have those in both heavy and lightweight. Got some sweatshirts. Got a couple different polos for you as well. And if you like coffee like me, you can get yourself a coffee mug. You can take a look at this nice Tennessee Voice of College Football tumbler. Or if you'd like to keep your drink cold, you can try the koozie. All very good stuff there on the Voice of College Football website. Again, huge shout out to management and Josh Mahler of our Oklahoma affiliate for making this stuff possible. So go check out our merch. Link is in the chat. All right. So there was a game this past week, even though I did not go to it. Tennessee played UAB in Neyland Stadium. Vols won 56-24. I think, Jordan, you and I both agree that while Tennessee did not have trouble winning this game, there were some things left to be desired. Not going to spend a ton of time talking about what happened this weekend because we did an entire show on that on Saturday. We'll drop that link in the chat as well. But if you had to give me just one or two things, Jordan, that you got out of that game on Saturday, what would you give me?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway that I would have is that Tennessee's defensive backs are kind of in trouble right now. That game, by statistic standpoint, is not really what you want to see on paper because Tennessee, during that game, they gave up 371 yards. And I knew that from last Saturday, but I didn't realize this until today that they also had a 75% completion percentage.
Mm.
So it's kind of rough out there for the defensive back groups. But a positive takeaway that I got from the game is that like Joey Aguilar still performing well. I mean, it wasn't it wasn't as good of numbers as it was against Georgia the week prior, but I mean, he still had over 200 yards passing. He had 3 touchdowns, and he made a couple of good throws down there, like we mentioned on the post game show. So I mean, I think Tennessee offensively is still looking fine, but the defensive backs is kind of an issue right now.
Yeah, yeah. I think you called the dogs off a little bit there early second quarter. After some of those incompletions, what I mean by that is you're just not trying to take nearly as many shots down the field. Just trying to run it with your running backs, do as much damage as you can on the ground. But I thought through the first quarter, Joey Aguilar looked good. Again, like we said during the post game show, the pick not at all on him. That's just a crazy ricochet that just happened to go into the safety's hands. There's just nothing you can do about that, other than maybe time it up a little bit better and then look for a guy that's not just super covered up by a defender, I think is the best way to put it. But you are right about the secondary, Jordan. I do have some worries about it going forward, especially with who is in front of Tennessee now in Mississippi State. That's a team that um, we know a thing or two about Jeff Levy's offense just because it kind of mirrors what Tennessee's doing. It's a lot of dependency on the run to open up bigger plays. And they've got some athletes there. That's something that we're not used to saying about Mississippi State, because usually when you think of Mississippi State, you're thinking tough, ground and pound, big boy football. But that's not the case this year necessarily. So, and again, too, one thing that you got to remember about UAB was that it was just lining up all the funky formations, trying to catch Tennessee off guard. I haven't watched a lick of UAB football outside of what I watched this Saturday, so I could be completely wrong about that. But I would imagine they're not running those formations all the time against conference opponents unless they're just truly not competitive with anybody in the American Athletic.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of times with these smaller schools, you see like somewhat like more gimmicky plays. I mean, because you got to do something to stay into the game. I mean, I don't know what the recruiting is like, but I mean, I'm sure it's mainly like 3 stars at best, if not less, for most of the players. I mean, so there's like a clear talent discrepancy there. I mean, it makes sense that they would have to pull out all the stops to be able to try to get a win. But yeah, I mean, of course, like Tennessee ended up getting the win as we all expected and everything. But yeah, and then there was a lot of interesting stuff going on in the game too, of like Trent Dilfer having his phone out and stuff as well, which apparently I think he said he was like sending to his daughter or something like that. He like FaceTimes them or
Yeah.
whatever. But I know that a lot of people talked about that online.
Yeah. No, it was kind of funny. I don't think we mentioned that much during the post game show, but he did have his phone out. I don't know if he was recording Neyland Stadium or what. I mean, that guy has never coached in an environment that big, to my knowledge. I forget who UAB's played on the road and non-conference play in previous seasons, but you just don't see it that often for them. Getting to go to a venue like Neyland Stadium, that is. So, and then the one other thing that Jordan, I think you wanted to mention it during the post game. You mentioned it to me after we got done. Um, Josh Heupel just trying to do every man in Vegas who took the over or the Tennessee spread, I should say, a big old favor and score another touchdown. Because I know the odds are a little different from ESPN Bet to most other sports books, I think. Like it's a 1 point advantage for somebody in the spread. I don't know how exactly that works, but I just know that the odds are stacked a little bit more one way than they are in most sports books. And yeah, he was still running plays with 2 seconds left. It's like he was unhappy with the team's effort despite winning by 32 in that game. It wasn't enough for him. Um, Maybe that is just revenge for what happened to Max Gilbert in the first quarter. That could also be a part of it. I don't know if Josh Heupel is a betting man. I do remember I do remember the first game of the Heupel era because I was there. That was my sophomore year of college. Tennessee was playing Bowling Green. They're up 38-6 late in the game. Um, they can take knees if they want to, but they keep running the football. And I just remember because the people next to me were just cheering the whole time, uh, rooting to cover the spread. And then I think it was Marcus Pierce, the walk-on running back, who ended up fumbling the ball. And then there was just this collective groan because they didn't cover the spread. So I don't know what that's all about, but I think there are a few logical explanations as to why that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of funny because I mean, I was telling you in the post game show that I was already prepping on coming in here and getting everything set up for the podcast. And I was like, I'll watch one last play just to make sure that they're going in victory formation. And then they surely did not. I mean, they were going down there throwing the football. I mean, they were trying to score one more time before the game ended, which honestly, I mean, if I was a coach, I would probably do the same thing, to be honest. I mean, I'm that type of guy in the Maddens and the college football video games, but you don't typically see it as much at the professional level. So, I mean, I thought it was pretty funny that Josh Heupel is just trying to go out there swinging to the very end.
I'm going to call you Cardale Jordan from now on for that, just for wanting to just beat the crap out of somebody that's already down. But no, you're not trying to beat people 98-31 in college football games. But
Oh, yes, I am.
that would be a sight to see. It would be a sight to see you beating up on somebody like that in a college football game. Well, that's about all I have. That we just the skinny of what we saw in that game against UAB on Saturday, and again, lots to work on still. But I think this is the last true test to see what this team is made of, I guess you could say, on the schedule. I know there are other road games besides Mississippi State. You got Kentucky, Alabama, and Florida down the road, but this is the first road game, so that's what I mean by it. It's the final big test to really see what this team is like, and how it handles that environment. Okay, so as we've done the last few weeks, let's take a look around at Tennessee's schedule, see what everybody did this week. Starting from the top of Tennessee's schedule here, Syracuse taking down Clemson 34-21. I can't tell whether to be impressed by the win from Syracuse or just the fact that Clemson is not a good football team. I think Fran Brown is a really good coach, and he's proven that this year just because I think the roster that he has is not anywhere near as talented as it was last season. Certainly not a stellar team on the defensive end. Unfortunately, though, for Syracuse, they will be without Steve Angeli for the rest of the year, blowing out his Achilles at some point in that game. So it'll be Ricky Collins quarterbacking the Orange the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I may have mentioned it on the post-game show, but I mean, it's pretty impressive what Syracuse has been able to achieve so far in the season, at least like in the passing game, because last season they led the FBS in passing yards, and then I don't know if it's changed since Angeli's injury, but going into that game, Angeli was the leading passer in all of college football. So it's pretty impressive that Fran Brown's been able to like replicate that for back-to-back years. I mean, I know the season's not done yet, but I mean, so far their passing attack was looking pretty good. And I don't know really what to think about Clemson either, because I was one of those people that bought into them, like thinking that they were going to be a bona fide playoff team and arguably a national championship contender. But I mean, almost losing to Troy, and now they've lost like how many games? Like three games
Yeah.
already.
You've already lost 2 conference games. So at this point, you got to run the table in the ACC. There's no other choice. You've got to win your last 6 of them, and then just hope there's enough cannibalism, I guess, within the conference in order to try and win it at this point. The Palmetto Bowl might be a 1st to 17 type affair. It was last season, but it really will be this season.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson's going to have to get something together. I mean, I just don't really see how they get into the playoffs now. I mean, they would surely have to win out the ACC championship, but I mean, I feel like that's pretty far fetched with how their season's gone
Yeah.
so far, and especially the other teams stepping up in the ACC too. Like Miami seems to be a pretty dangerous team this season. So I mean, I don't know if they could get past them either.
Yeah, yeah, and Posty's right. I think Fran Brown at a bigger program could be very dangerous. If Steve Angeli was still on Syracuse or playing for Syracuse, I should say, he's on the team, just injured. Um, I would say that they are a fringe contender to win the ACC. I can't say that now with him injured, unless Ricky Collins is the next undiscovered truth of college football, which could be the case. Right now, I think there are maybe 3 or 4 teams that are really contending for that title. So we'll monitor it as the year goes on because obviously Syracuse is a team that you want to see do well on the schedule now that Tennessee has beaten it. Moving on down the line here, ETSU beat Elon 26-16. Next, um, Mississippi State beat Northern Illinois 38-10. Took a little bit for Mississippi State to get going in that game. I watched a part of it early on, and I think before I flipped to Auburn and Oklahoma. But they didn't really pull away until late in the third quarter of that game. So, um, yeah, didn't watch a ton of that one. But that's Tennessee's next opponent. So, obviously, a result worth keeping in the back of your mind. We mentioned this one in our post game show on Saturday. Arkansas falls at Memphis 32-31, and they quite literally stumbled and fumbled a game away for the second time in as many weeks this season.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, Memphis is looking like a pretty good team this year
Yeah.
so far. I mean, if they keep continuing it up, I mean, they could be in the playoffs. So I don't know how bad of a loss it truly is for Arkansas, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a game that I mean is a little bit reassuring for Tennessee fans. I'm sure. I mean, like I said, Memphis is good, but I mean they are a yeah, group of 5 school. So I mean, it is like reassuring to see that Arkansas like fell. But we'll see how it ends up going later in the year. I mean, I'm feeling confident about the Arkansas game even going into the season, but I'm still confident as the season's been going on. I think Tennessee's going to play well against them, and I'm excited for that matchup.
Yeah, I don't think their defense is very good this year. I'll just go ahead and say that. And they've got one more big test this week in Notre Dame before they come to Tennessee. Um, I don't think their defense is very good. The offense is productive, but I went back and watched the second interception that Taylor Green threw because I saw the first one live and it was terrible. The second one was somehow worse. He threw the ball, tried to zip it in tight to a receiver crossing over to the right into the middle of the field. Did not see a defender at all, just sitting right in front of him, threw it straight to the defender. Like he was eyeing his receiver the whole time, trying to like sidearm it in there, and it just did not work. So, again, he's been very productive to start this season, and I think Arkansas overall is very productive on offense. It's what you expect from Bobby Petrino, but if you're into conspiracy theories, I think we're getting to the point now where it's like this is a whole plot from the athletic department to bring back Bobby Petrino as an offensive coordinator to supplant Sam Pittman as the head coach of Arkansas. But the heat is back on again for Sam Pittman. It never turned off at the end of last season, but now that you've lost 2 games like that, it's going to be hot again there in Fayetteville. Absolutely. So, moving on down here, I should mention too, a lot of teams were on bye this week in the SEC. I believe Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, and Texas A&M were all on bye. 3 of which, of course, were on Tennessee's schedule. So, no games to discuss with those teams this week, which would bring up the next game as Oklahoma and Auburn. Oklahoma, of course, won that game 24-17. Oklahoma's a very well-rounded football team. They can't light you up the same way that a Lincoln Riley team did, say, 5-6 years ago. But they do look very good on the defensive end. Of course, only giving up 17 in that game, only gave up 13 to Michigan. And of course, you get 10 sacks in that game as well for Oklahoma, which with that safety broke a program record. I will say this, though. I think a lot of that had to do with Jackson Arnold being too slow making decisions as opposed to Oklahoma actually getting in there on time. Because, sometimes he's just going way too slow with his reads and then they sack him. And like he's staring one guy down, doesn't like what he's seeing, doesn't move quick enough to the next guy, and then he gets himself in trouble. That or he just decides to take off too late. One of those two is the problem. So Auburn may still be better this year. I'm not entirely sure, but Oklahoma is going to be a tough out for everybody in the SEC. That's for sure.
Yeah, Oklahoma's defense looked pretty good. I actually got to catch some of that game, and that last drive where they ended up breaking the team sack record. I mean, I think they got I think it was a sack, a tackle for a loss, and then a sack safety right there towards the end. I
Yeah.
mean, their defense was playing pretty good out there, which is a little concerning, to be honest. I mean, especially with how Mateer's been playing so far this season. I'm pretty sure. Let me check real quick. Yeah, he's still leading the SEC in passing so far. He's got 1,200 yards. He's got 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And I mean, he can move a little bit too, which I mean, we've talked about before. Tennessee, or I brought it up, how Tennessee struggled stopping the quarterback run in years past. So I mean, Oklahoma is definitely a team that Tennessee is going to need to keep an eye on. And I'm a little bit more concerned with them now than I was going into the season.
Yeah. I think you should be rightfully. I think Mateer is potentially a top 1 quarterback in the SEC right now. Certainly a top 2 or 3. I think he's that good for this team, and a guy that's been a real underdog too. I mean, Joey Aguilar fits that mold as well, but I think Mateer is a little bit more of a complete player to this point than what we've seen out of Joey so far. So good win for Oklahoma. That was one of the 2 SEC games this week. Mizzou and South Carolina also played each other. Tennessee does not play either one of those teams. And of course, Mizzou ended up winning that game 29-20. Not super surprised that they won just based on everything we've seen the prior 3 weeks. But the rushing yard disparity in that game, I think it ended up being 287 to like -9
Dang.
in favor of Mizzou, which is kind of wild. Kind of wild. Because Sellers ended up throwing for 300 because they had to throw their way back into that game. They're just getting bullied by Mizzou up front, absolutely bullied. So not good at all for South Carolina. And the temperature's rising once again in Columbia, South Carolina, that is. But obviously Tennessee does not play either one of those teams, so we won't dwell on it too much. There was one other big game, however, that happened this weekend that featured a team on Tennessee's schedule, and that is, of course, the game that College Game Day was at down there in South Beach. Miami taking down Florida 26-7. Okay. Florida's defense might be the best in the SEC. I'm not lying when I say that. They have been terrific this season. You only give up 18 points to USF in week 2, shut out Long Island. Really only gave up 13 to LSU because there was a pick 6 in that game. One of the 5 interceptions DJ Lagway threw. And really until the final 4 minutes of this game, you held your own against Miami. They're only down 13-7. And one of the touchdowns Miami scored late was because you had a turnover on downs deep in your own territory. So Florida actually very good on defense this year. Offensively, it's been dreadful. It's been absolutely dreadful. 141 total yards of offense this week for Florida against Miami. That's miserable. No third down conversions. They were 0 for 13 on third down. So, and DJ Lagway is hurt right now. I think he was spotted in a walking boot by somebody down there in Gainesville today. They're optimistic he'll play against Texas, but this is turning into a game where it's just like, and we'll talk about it later, but Tennessee is not for sure going to play Florida next season. So, if not now, when is Tennessee going to win a game down there?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this season, it puts the pressure on Tennessee even more to win, considering that they're not going to be playing each and every year. And with Lagway's situation, I'm pretty sure that he had a boot on before the season even
Yeah.
started, like a week or two before regular season began. And then I just think it's funny because a lot of people, expected Florida's offense to be spectacular and that Lagway was going to be a Heisman contender. And then on the flip side, everyone thought that Tennessee's defense was going to be carrying them. And it looks like both of those things end up flipping right there. I mean, Tennessee's offense has been looking good, and now Florida's defense is looking pretty good. But I mean, Florida's been struggling quite a bit to start the year, which I'm a little surprised. I mean, last year they were able to run the table pretty good for as tough of a schedule as they had. I think they won what, like 8 games last year when
Yeah, they got to 8-5 if you include the bowl game, which is not bad for what they were dealt.
yeah, no, because if you looked at their schedule going into last season, I mean, it looked like they would be lucky to win 2 games. And of course, most of their opponents are back for this season as well. But it's going to be a rough road from Florida from here on out. I mean, especially if Lagway continues to struggle, if he continues to be injured, and like I just don't know what like Florida's going to be able to do offensively. I mean, it looks like that seat keeps getting hotter and hotter for Billy Napier. But I mean, of course, everyone that's a Tennessee fan really wants him to stay
Yeah,
as long
keep
as
him there.
possible.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want if you're a Tennessee fan. You want him to stay there as long as possible. So, but man, they are in trouble. He is by record the worst of the 4 coaches they've had since Urban Meyer. Um, I mean, he's the closest thing to. I mean, I guess who would that be in Tennessee terms? Jeremy Pruitt to what they
Ye-
have down there in Gainesville. So it's not good. I think the pressure was still on him a little bit in the offseason, but it's turned right back up. That's for sure. One more game on Tennessee's schedule, or opponent on Tennessee's schedule that played a game this weekend was Vanderbilt. They defeated Georgia State 70-21. I think they took that one kind of personally after having lost last season down there in Atlanta. That snapped a 107-year-old scoring record. They had not scored 70 in a game since 1918, which is kind of
Dang.
nuts. They will absolutely be 5-0 by the time they go down to Tuscaloosa. They got Utah State at home, and then they're off. So it's I is that right? Yeah, that would be right because they have this game and then the bye, and then they're at Alabama right before Tennessee goes down there. So that's something to monitor. Absolutely, with Vanderbilt going down the stretch, how they can do on the road in the SEC. How they do at home in the SEC too is something I'm also intrigued by.
Yeah, I mean,
So, oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, Vanderbilt's been off to a pretty hot start, man. I mean, whenever Vanderbilt starts off the season like undefeated, I mean, they're 4-0 right now. I mean, you don't see that much. I mean, I remember a time where Vanderbilt won like 2 games about every single season.
Yeah,
And they've really turned things around under Clark Lee. And yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting when they come to Knoxville.
bonus round for you this week. Kennesaw State, Jerry Mack, the Owls defeated Arkansas State and Butch Jones 28-21 on Saturday as well. So, hate to see it for Butch. Really hate to see it for Butch. Okay, looking at the polls now, you've got Tennessee staying at 15. So apparently a 3-point loss to Georgia is the equivalent to a 32-point victory over UAB in terms of staying there. You did have some pretty significant movements, though, in terms of other teams in the poll. You have Indiana and Texas Tech moving up to 11 and 12. And that's Indiana defeating Illinois 63-10, by the way. Do need to shout out, I don't know if he's watching this, but do need to shout out my younger cousin Logan Wright for making a kick for $1,000 at halftime of that game.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was floating around on social media. So Logan, if you're watching this, or any of you guys up there in Carmel are watching this, congratulations. That's really cool. And the fact that you got a 63-10, whatever, Brett Bielema, who absolutely uh, just ran his mouth at the SEC all off season. But Signetti could be playing his way into a bigger job. We shall see. Um, Additionally, Texas Tech 34-10 win at Utah. Utah is one of those teams that I think had beaten up on some teams in non-conference play, and it's just gotten to the point where you assumed they were going to be really good, but it turned out UCLA was actually kind of trash. Uh, so that's I think part of their problem. But Texas Tech does look good. And by the way, they did a lot of that damage in that game late in the game, and that was after they had lost their starting quarterback Baron Morton. So always scary when a guy comes in off the bench and just starts balling out against you, especially when you've not allowed anybody to score more than 10 this season. So those are the teams that jumped Tennessee this week. Of course, Illinois falls down to 23. They're somehow still in that poll despite taking a 53-point loss. I don't know if I've ever seen a team get beat like that and stay in it. And then Bama falling to 17 this week despite not playing a game. That's funny. Usually it's Tennessee that's getting penalized for not playing games. Yeah, maybe the Bama bias is a thing of the past. We'll see if that's indeed the case when they go to Athens this weekend, which I have a feeling that could go very poorly for them. Jumping in, you've got BYU and TCU. BYU has given up 16 points the entire season. Granted, they've only played Stanford and East Carolina. And then TCU has beaten both SMU and North Carolina to start the year. Falling out of the poll, you've got Utah, who we already mentioned, and then Auburn, who lost to Oklahoma, that we already mentioned as well. So those are your big poll movements for the week. But the main thing is Tennessee stays put. You do not have a ranked matchup in Starkville this week, despite the fact that Mississippi State is 4-0, which, by the way, I discovered this is the first time they've been 4-0 since they had that 2014 season that was like a once-in-a-generation season where they were the first ever number one in the college football playoff rankings. Of course, it ended sourly for them. They lost the game to Bama, lost the Egg Bowl to an Ole Miss team that had, I think, lost 3 SEC games in a row right up to that point, and then got run all over by Paul Johnson, Georgia Tech. I think Justin Thomas was the quarterback of that team in the Orange Bowl. So, but yeah, Mississippi State is not ranked going into this game, which I think may add some extra motivation for them this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Mississippi State being 4-0, I mean, it definitely has seemed like a while. Wasn't Dak Prescott the quarterback of that team in 2014?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that they were pretty good that season, and then it seemed like they fell off a little bit, like towards the end. But yeah, the Mississippi State matchup definitely going to be a pretty interesting one for Tennessee. I mean, the first away game of the year. I'm more confident in the Mississippi State game than I was going into it, because Mississippi State doesn't really seem to have much that sticks out necessarily. I mean, they're number 39 in total offense. Their defense is a little bit better. They're in the top 30 of defense. They're currently ranked at 26, but they're not in the top 50 for sacks or sacks allowed. So there's just not too much like really sticking out for them. And you know, like Tennessee has struggled on the road under Josh Heupel from time to time. But I feel a lot more confident in this Mississippi State game than I did earlier in the year. How are you feeling, Tucker?
Well, that's good that you feel that way, I guess. The fact that Tennessee lost the game to Georgia, I think, is going to help out a lot. It'll serve us some motivation. It's just a matter of whether or not you can keep up with their skill guys on offense, which is something that we're going to see. We're going to see if they're able to do that. One thing I do want to touch on before we do a little bit more of an in-depth preview is something that is happening tomorrow night And part of it has already been spoiled for us, and we'll go ahead and talk about it because it is very important to the future of this uh, conference, and that is the three permanent opponents on Tennessee's schedule for the next 4 seasons. So not really permanent, but they'll reevaluate it and could potentially keep those opponents on there if they feel like it. And if you've been watching us for the last few months, then you know exactly who those permanent opponents are: Alabama, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky. There was never a good argument to have anybody else on the schedule for Tennessee permanently than those three teams, because Tennessee has been playing all three of those teams pretty much annually for the last century plus.
Yeah.
Because Kentucky and Vanderbilt have been playing Tennessee since the 1890s, pretty much, when football first began being popularized in this country. So, and to me, there was no debate as to who it would be. I know some people, especially Tennessee fans that are closer to our age, were hoping you'd get Georgia or Florida on there. Um, but I've mentioned it in previous shows that those two meant nothing, or not nothing, but they meant way less to Tennessee before the year 1992 than they do right now.
Yeah. I mean, that is true. I'm still a little disappointed that Tennessee doesn't play Florida every single year, but I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense what Tennessee did. They chose the most historical rivalries. I mean, especially Alabama and Vanderbilt. Tennessee's been playing them for a long, long time, and I'm sure a lot of Tennessee fans got to be happy that they finally don't have to play against Georgia, Alabama, and Florida every single year, because that
Yeah.
has been an issue ever since Josh Heupel's gotten there. It's been a problem off and on throughout the history of Tennessee's football, but I mean, more so than late. I mean, that's what's kept Tennessee from going to the playoffs some year. I mean, like in 2022, I mean, I know everything happened with South Carolina the way that it did, but I mean, Tennessee beats Georgia. I mean, they still got a chance to go to the playoffs. I mean, especially as a one-loss SEC team. So that's a little refreshing. But it is a little. Just a little disappointed about Florida, but because I'm just wanting Tennessee to turn that career record around and finally get back on top of Florida. But you're right. I mean, it's became more of a rivalry like since the Spurrier era. I mean, I feel like he played a big factor into why Tennessee fans hate Florida as much as they do. But I think that they ultimately got it right with the rivals, as much as I'd like Florida to be on there.
Yeah. And I think the rivalries that ended up getting left out, for example, Alabama and LSU, and then Texas A&M and Arkansas, um, those are kind of secondary rivals, I think, to some of those teams. I don't, maybe not Arkansas. Well, actually, yes, it is to Arkansas. Certainly to Texas, I know, or Texas A&M, I know it is. And then LSU's got a few different teams you could call rivals. It's just weird because like there's some teams like for example Tennessee, Texas, Georgia. Those teams required no thought as to who their permanent three should be, and that's exactly what the SEC did. They gave Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, and Auburn, and then they gave Texas, Texas A&M, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. No thought required in doing any of that, just because those teams traditionally do not like each other, and they are within a geographic proximity of each other. But in some cases, they are a little bit tougher to determine. Like you have some oddballs out there, like South Carolina, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Missouri. Obviously, is one of them. Who they have one rival, but they can't really claim any others. So you kind of have to do it based a little bit more on geography than anything, and I think that's what we saw a little bit. Um, so I mean, for the most part, you have matchups that make sense across the board. I think even for Mizzou, like those matchups all make sense. You know, the Arkansas. I know the border war is a very manufactured thing, or the battle line trophy is very manufactured, but I guess because they broke the bank to make that sick trophy, They had to, they had to keep that rivalry intact, and that's the closest or one of the closest SEC schools to Mizzou. Oklahoma is another one that makes a lot of sense for Mizzou. And then they put them with Texas A&M as well, which is kind of funky, but they did also enter the league at the same time, and they, aside from some of those old Southwest Conference and Big 12 schools, they just didn't really fit with anybody else. I didn't feel like so. Honestly, not a bad idea to put Mizzou there. And then teams like South Carolina and Kentucky, they got grouped with like traditional SEC East teams. Like South Carolina got grouped with Georgia because that's the closest SEC team to them. Florida, which does make some sense actually, and then Kentucky, which sounds kind of funny, but you got to keep in mind if you were going to do the hypothetical 8-team league where you or 8-team schedule where you keep the one permanent opponent on there. You would preserve in-state rivalries, so the teams in Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and Texas would all play each other. Georgia and Florida would automatically get grouped together. You would assume Arkansas and LSU would get grouped because LSU and Oklahoma doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and you would put Mizzou and Oklahoma together for the sake of tradition. So that leaves two teams out of the mix mathematically, which are South Carolina and Kentucky. So honestly, not bad. Little surprised they did not give Vanderbilt Kentucky. They gave Vanderbilt Mississippi State, Auburn, and Tennessee, which is honestly not a terrible draw right now. I guess it does make some sense from a geographical standpoint. I thought, if anything, Vanderbilt was going to get either Ole Miss or Missouri. Ole Miss and Oklahoma is the real oddball here. I don't know why or how they came to that conclusion. I know there's some math involved there, but that's just what they decided to do. Ole Miss has really only got Mississippi State and LSU as the big rivals. Like, I mean, the Arkansas one, I guess, is what it is. There aren't any other huge ones besides that, though. So, yeah, other than the Ole Miss Oklahoma game, I think most of these make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the SEC got it right for the most part. I really like what they did with like more of the Western schools. Like, I mean, Texas got Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M, which I think makes perfect sense. And then I like too, like as you mentioned, that Missouri and Texas A&M are together on there, because I mean they were like the little oddballs that got grouped in,
Yeah.
to the SEC during that first merger.
Yeah, and I saw some people advocating to put South Carolina and Arkansas together because they joined the league at the same time. But the reality is, Arkansas has so many more teams it can call a rival in the SEC than South Carolina can. Um, South Carolina is one of those teams that would like to claim Tennessee as a rival, whereas Tennessee has like 5 teams it considers more of a rival than South Carolina traditionally speaking, because like Georgia and Florida, it did not become relevant until 1992. And even then, it wasn't really relevant until the mid 2000s because South Carolina could never beat Tennessee.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some Georgia fans that are disappointed that Tennessee isn't on the yearly schedule, but I've always been one of those Tennessee fans that I've never looked at Georgia as a rival. Like I know somewhere you see it listed on there, but I've never really considered Georgia as a traditional rival for Tennessee. I think Georgia fans think more about that than Tennessee fans do.
Yeah. Yeah. So overall, I think the league got it right. We are now just waiting and seeing what will happen tomorrow night at 6 Central, 7 Eastern, I guess, is the full schedule reveal. And I think that's opponents for potentially the next 4 years, maybe not just next year. So it'll be fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch everybody's opponents get revealed. Hoping for some fun games on there. I believe it's going to be 5 SEC home games for Tennessee next season. One of or two of which will be Alabama and Kentucky. I guess the other 3 are yet or they just remain to be seen because you got the 4 SEC road games plus Georgia Tech and Atlanta. And then to counter that, the next season they're going to do 4 SEC home games, 5 road games because you have Georgia Tech at home. And then the year after that, it'll just work the same way because you'll get the 5 SEC home games because you got the Washington home and home, so you'll have to go up there in 28. So that all makes sense, I think, and ultimately good too because now you'll have of your 7 home games, you've got 5 that you can really consider marquee at this point if you're Tennessee. So that's good, and also makes you glad that Tennessee is not one of those programs that loves playing neutral site games annually. Nobody really likes them, but there's those games out there like the cocktail party and the shootout that are always going to be played at a neutral site just forever and ever. And I don't think that's great for recruiting, but it should help that you get these 5 marquee matchups in just for recruiting purposes.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to see whenever the schedule gets released. I'm really excited for whenever Tennessee has to play against Texas. That's something I've been looking forward to.
Yeah.
Well before even Texas joined the SEC, I've wanted to see Tennessee play against Texas in like a bowl game or just anything. So I mean, surely they'll be Tennessee's opponent within the next 4 years, considering I mean they haven't been in the SEC, but like this their second season. So I mean they'll eventually get in there on the schedule, and then we'll get to see who's really the real UT, which everyone listening to the show already knows who that is. But
Yeah.
I mean Texas fans need to know about that as well, and that's going to be a really exciting. It's probably going to be a really expensive game too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, Jordan, that's something I've been thinking about for a long time too, and just the uniform clash. Like, how are we going to be able to tell each other apart? How are Tennessee and Texas going to be able to tell each other apart? Unless Tennessee wears the smoky grays or dark mode, in which
I
case it'll
hope
be
not.
fine. Unless it's a Halloween game, in which case you've won it. Which, by the way, I think that would be next year. That would be the Halloween game because you got a game on November 1st this season. I'm not entirely. Hold up. Let me pull up the calendar. I want to do that just to make sure. Because I want to see because if Tennessee does indeed get a home game next season on Halloween, that would be awesome. And it is indeed a home game
Oh,
or not a home game. It's Halloween on a Saturday, so somebody is going to get a home game for that one. I hope it's not a bye week. I really hope it's not a bye week because that would just be a super awesome. Because Tennessee's not had a Halloween home game since 2009. Because the last time they played on Halloween was, I believe, in 2015 at Kentucky when they blew out Kentucky up there under Butch Jones.
yeah, and that last home game was like very fun. I remember that was the one where Tennessee came out in the orange on orange, and then they came back out the black uniforms on, and that was a Steve Spurrier led South Carolina team too. So it was
Yeah.
nice getting a win over the old ball coach. But man, that would be so exciting. Tennessee getting a home game on Halloween, especially if it's Texas, man. That would be that would be electric.
Yeah, I hope we speak this into existence, but that may not be the case, unfortunately. All right, one more order of business before we get out of here, and that is, of course, the game that awaits us. Tennessee at Mississippi State down there in Davis-Wade Stadium in Starkville, Mississippi. Kickoff is at 3:15. Once again, it is a whiteout for Mississippi State. Uniform combination will be revealed, I believe, Thursday for the Vols. So I would imagine they're probably not going to go orange jerseys and orange pants 2 weeks in a row. So that begs the question what they're going to bust out. We know they're busting out the grays for New Mexico State later on this season. So I don't know when they're going to bust out the dark mode. You would think it'd be Oklahoma just because that's November 1st, the day after Halloween. But that could change. You never know. Would be kind of funny wearing black on the road, though. Would be kind of a funky uniform clash. Although the last funky uniform clash Tennessee had like that on the road, it went very, very well. It was in Baton Rouge against Jaden Daniels, and they won 40-13. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. Mississippi State fans evidently are very excited about this too, because that MSU logo is probably the coolest logo that they have historically at that school. So, again, that is a 3:15 game. So Josh Heupel avoids playing that game on the road at night. As far as Mississippi State goes, they've played all non-conference games. So this, of course, is their SEC opener. They have played one non-conference game of significance 2 weeks ago, and that was a win against Arizona State. And in preparation for this, I watched that game at 2 times speed, or I was clicking from play to play just to speed up the process and see what I could see on Arizona State, because they did have a full game out there on YouTube. Because sometimes it's just highlights, but sometimes you can find the full game, and I got lucky enough to find the full game today. And of course, Mississippi State got the win 24-20. It's a significant win. Their first Power 4 win since defeating Arkansas 7-3 in 2023. So very significant win for those guys down there in Starkville. Looked good against Southern Miss on the road in week 1 as well. But since then, they've only played Alcorn State and Northern Illinois, who are not really are not teams that I expect to do well this season. Alcorn State maybe at the FCS level, but not Northern Illinois, because they barely beat somebody a few weeks ago who's escaping me. Maybe Holy Cross, although Holy Cross is a pretty decent FCS school as well. But looking back at that Arizona State matchup, a few things stuck out to me. So looking at them defensively first, which is the thing that I paid attention to the most, they were okay defending the run for most of that game until, oddly enough, the final 10 minutes. And then Mississippi State Arizona State just had its way. And Arizona State, too, had lost its running back for that game as well. So you had 2 backups in there going for over 100 apiece, which is pretty impressive. Rattled off some big runs. It's like they were defending it relatively well in the first half, and then just it kind of collapsed on them late in the game, which I don't know what that's all about. So if Tennessee can assert its will on the ground, I would say that's a pretty important key for Tennessee in this game. Just knowing that another Power 4 team has done that, and you know that you're deep at running back, I think Tennessee has to do that here in order to win. Anybody has to do that to try and win in the SEC, but I think knowing that, you got to find a way to.
Yeah, and I mean the run games is one thing that Tennessee's excelled at. I mean, ever since Josh Heupel's been there. I mean, and Tennessee's got 3 good running backs right now. I mean, I like I mentioned on the postgame show, I was more impressed with Peyton Lewis this past week than I have been like the entire season. And I mean, Tennessee's got some good guys. We've been talking high praise of Star Thomas. I mean, he continues to be good out there, and like, man, like he's got a crazy spin move, man. I know you've seen it a couple of times. Like he's hit about like 5 or 6 on the season so far. And like Tennessee's offensive line's still been going good. So I mean, I imagine they can move the football against Mississippi State. And you already know Tennessee's passing attack's been good. And I mentioned on the postgame show, but Tennessee has only given up 10 tackles for a loss on the season, and then 2 sacks, which you could put an asterisk next to both of them, especially the one on Georgia, which was just essentially a fumble recovery, which would consider it a sack. But I mean, I think just the one issue at the game is the issue that Tennessee's had in the past couple of weeks, and it's just the defensive backfield. And has there been more information came out about Jerron McCoy? Because I thought I saw some people saying that they think that he might not even return for the rest of the season, which would be a huge loss for Tennessee because they are starting to struggle. I mean, and like injury too. Who was it last week that went down and came back into the game? Because there was another cornerback. McMurray. Yeah, McMurray went down. I mean, he came back, but I mean, still, like Tennessee can't afford to have any guys banged up, regardless if they're injured or not.
No. They, again, availability reports come out at 8 Eastern time or around 8 Eastern time every Wednesday. So keep your eyes out for that. But Josh Heupel will never tell you more than he is required to. Which means I do not have an answer for you about their status, and we're not going to have an answer until Wednesday, unfortunately. So keep your eyes out for that. So as I was saying on the defense, they've got some They went against Sam Levitt at quarterback for Arizona State, who's coming off a pretty nice season for Arizona State, guided them to uh, a college football playoff appearance with largely in part because you had a stud running back there in Cam Scadaboo to help you out, but you're coming into a place like Starkville and you're thinking this is a guy that could potentially light them up, even if they're running the ball well. And looking back at that game, it had nothing to do with the fact that Mississippi State was making great plays. He was just out of sync the entire game with his wide receivers, like overthrowing guys, the wide receivers jumping for passes they didn't need to be jumping for. The 2 interceptions he threw, there was not an Arizona State wide receiver within 10 yards of either of those balls. The first one was more or less an arm punt. The second one was, a ball thrown into traffic on the first play on the final possession for Arizona State at the end of that game. Wide receiver well behind the play, and there were 2 defenders very close to the ball. So again, I think that has more to do with him just not being very good in that game as opposed to Mississippi State looking very, very nice in the secondary, because I don't really think they've proven much there. So this will be the first big test for the Bulldogs in that regard, I think. I counted maybe 4 or 5 well-thrown passes from Sam Levitt in that game, and they all came while they were trying to catch back up. So, I think Joey Aguilar can absolutely challenge them this weekend. After having watched that, I don't think it was the offensive line not getting enough push in the pass protection. I don't think, because clearly he's got enough time to make these throws. He's just out of sync with his guys. And that's what we saw from Arizona State in that game, unfortunately for the Sun Devils. So that's what I saw on their defense. Offensively, Blake Shapen is one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC that we are not talking about. I think that's very much the case, because there's a guy that, even though that team was not going to win more than 3 or 4 games had he been healthy all year, he could have still been very productive for them last year. Has the ability to run the football a little bit. Threw 3 touchdown passes in that game, 2 of which were tremendous throws. The other one was a good throw, but his receiver did have to make a little bit of an adjustment on it to catch it over the shoulder. But overall, this is a guy that I guess you could potentially call a gunslinger if you really needed him to be. But we said this near the beginning of the show, or maybe before the show, I can't remember, but the Jeff Lebby offense is more or less the Josh Heupel offense. They are going to run the ball a lot. They're going to use their tempo in order to set up these pass plays. Not as many screen passes in that game, I noticed, and more design quarterback runs for Blake Shapen as well than what we've seen out of Joey Aguilar. But they got 2 very nice running backs. Fluff Bothwell, transferring in from South Alabama, was a part of a very nice offense down there in Mobile last season. And then Davon Booth returns for them as well. He played in that game against Tennessee last season, had a handful of nice runs. So those are both guys that can be productive for them. I want to say they've had a very productive game on the ground since Mississippi State. They didn't run the ball super effectively in that Arizona State game, I should say, but it did enough to open up the passing game for them, it felt like.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about how Blake Shapen's been a good quarterback so far. I mean, he's got almost 1,000 yards receiving. He's at 884 right now. A good 67% completion percentage. So, I mean, he's doing pretty well statistically, and he's only thrown 2 interceptions on the season. And I see that Mississippi State's receivers have pretty good stats too. Brendan Thompson, he's got almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then Evans has about 302 touchdowns as well. So, I mean, stopping Shapen's going to be very important for Tennessee in this game, I'm afraid. And with the defensive backs being limited, I think Tennessee's going to have to send a lot of pressure. And, you know, I think Josephs has played good this year. Maybe he can have a breakout game Maybe Arian Carter can start getting more blitzes in and create pressure, but Tennessee's going to have to rattle Shapen to be able to try to force some turnovers because I don't know. I mean, after letting UAB throw for 371, I mean, it could very well be worse with Mississippi State. But the good thing about Tennessee, though, is that they can outscore pretty much anybody. I mean, I think they are averaging over 50 points per game right now. So even with Tennessee's defense kind of taking a step back, I mean, hopefully the offense will be able to fire on all cylinders enough to just keep Tennessee hanging on. But I mean, I still like Tennessee's odds in this game, but they are going to have to stop the pass for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and you mentioned the wide receivers, Anthony Evans and Brennan Thompson. They're basically starting from scratch at that position because they're two of their best receivers from last season. Mario Craver and Kevin Coleman got poached by other SEC programs. Craver tearing it up at Texas A&M right now. Kevin Coleman doing well for the Missouri Tigers and Eli Drinkwitz. But Brennan Thompson may be the fastest man in the SEC, which is something that I never thought I would say about a football player that plays for Mississippi State of all programs. You don't think speed when you think of Mississippi State, but he has it. I want to say they clocked him running like 20 miles an hour against Arizona State at one point, which is that's a fast little guy. He's not very tall. I forget how big he is exactly. He transferred in from Oklahoma. I don't remember if he played much against Tennessee last year because I know they were dropping like flies in that game because they lost both Nick Anderson and what's his name? Deion Burks in that game last season. I'm trying to pull it up here. Height and weight. Brennan Thompson. You're a big height and weight guy, Jordan. I know that much. 5'9", 170. That's a speedster right there. By definition.
He's like my size.
yeah, he's a little dude, but he can outrun both of us. That's for sure. He's not very tall, but he can absolutely outrun the two of us. Can outrun a lot of people in the SEC. And then Anthony Evans, like you said, been very productive as well. He was the guy that caught the first touchdown pass in that game against Arizona State. Very well executed play. Also saw the Arizona State defenders jogging a little bit. That's not great. But you are going to have to work hard to defend the pass, and then ultimately you got to do the same things that any team has to do to shut down a Josh Heupel offense with the Jeff Lebby offense, which is control the line of scrimmage in the run game. That's what it feels like right now.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee's definitely going to have to get the run game started. I mean, I think this could be a good game for Joey Aguilar too. I mean, he had a good game against Georgia where he really stepped out. I mean, this will be his first road test of the season, and then he's proved a lot of people wrong so far in the season. I mean, we could see a shootout here at some point. I mean, if Chapin's firing under all cylinders and we already know what to expect a little bit with Aguilar, hopefully it doesn't get to that point. I mean, because I think Tennessee would want to win comfortably in this game. I mean, for playoff implications and everything. But, I mean, outside of Mississippi State having a pretty good passing attack, I mean, I think Tennessee fares well against Mississippi State. I mean, I think Chris Brazzell stepped up so much in the season that, I mean, if he continues to step it up, I mean, we could be talking about another Bilikinoff winner for Tennessee. I mean, right now, I think he's still second in the country in receiving yards and maybe even receiving touchdowns, but I would have to double check. But, I mean, Tennessee's got some offensive players that are going to go in there. They're going to give you points, and I think Tennessee is going to continue to put a lot of points up in this game. But I wouldn't be surprised if Mississippi State scores more than 3 touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, I have the same thought as well. The one other thing that I think you always have to wonder about with not just going on the road, but especially like Mississippi State where they go all game, it's the noise. It's the noise. You hear it every time you turn on your TV and watch a Mississippi State game at Mississippi State. The cowbells are going to cause a lot of problems for you that other noise would not. They don't They don't make not much noise themselves outside of the cowbells, but that's all they need. They save their voices. They just use the cowbells instead. And I think that's something Tennessee's going to have to get used to. Um, and hopefully not something that creates pre-snap penalties for Tennessee. That could be potentially problematic. And I'm just thinking back to last year in that Arkansas game. That was a problem for the Vols, and you had Lance Hurd in his first game back from injury, and he's looking like a liability out there. What if the same thing happens with David Sanders? Again, we'll know more in about 48 hours, but you do worry about that a little bit should it happen.
Yeah, I just don't know if David Sanders is going to play in the game, to be honest. I mean, I don't know what's been going on. I think you said that there's apparently something going on with his shoulder and like a nerve issue.
Yeah, there is a nerve issue related to it, and they're not going to they're not going to clear him until they feel 100% sure about it. I know nobody is 100% healthy as the season goes on, but that one I feel like there's more layers to it than we realize. No pun intended.
Well, I mean, with how much potential he has for Tennessee, I mean, I think it's good that they're being cautious with him in his return. I mean, hopefully he can get on the field at some point during the season. But I mean, if not, I mean, I just hope that he gets healthy so we can see what he's truly made of. But I mean, so far, I mean, Tennessee's offensive line's been playing so well that I don't know if they necessarily need Sanders right now. But I mean, that all could change with a few injuries. I mean, that's the last thing Tennessee needs right now because I think I mean, although their offensive line's been playing good, I mean, if a couple guys get hurt, I mean, I could see the offense taking a dip, and it could be a serious problem moving for the rest of the season. But thankfully, Tennessee doesn't have to worry about that right now.
No, it does not. All right. That's about all I have on the matchup. Any other big keys that we missed outside of what we mentioned with both sides of the ball going against Mississippi State, the matchup, and of course pre-snap penalties?
I mean, my only other like real like key would be is to get Star Thomas more involved in the game. I mean,
Okay.
he's been so great throughout the year, but yet he's always coming in on like the second or third drive. And I mean, I don't know. I want to see some momentum going with Star Thomas, get him more active in the game, and he doesn't have to just run the football either. I mean, I think that he's proven at his time at Duke and I mean, pretty much every season that he's played, I mean, he's done good in receiving. I think he's had about like 300 receiving yards each season that he's played in college football. And, you know, he had that good touchdown catch against Syracuse. I would like to see some more passes and some more runs by Star Thomas and then, you know, still shuffle the running backs throughout. But I mean, I want to see him get more carries because I think that he can be an electric player for Tennessee that could help Tennessee win a couple of games.
Yeah, I was gonna compare him to being like the Hendon Hooker of Tennessee running backs, the guy that is got another guy starting over him, but really needs to be the starter. But I think we all know the answer to that is Dylan Sampson. This or 2 years ago when he's behind Jalen Wright and Jabari Small, even though Jalen Wright is a terrific running back in Tennessee football history, Dylan Sampson just provided more twitch for you, and ultimately is a big reason why you won a lot of games, not just last year, but even before. I mean, you look at that Kentucky game in 2023. That dude is the reason why Tennessee won that game. But you're right, Star Thomas absolutely needs more carries than what he's getting. Do you have a score prediction?
I actually do this time. So, I
Okay.
mean, Tennessee, they've been
It's about a touchdown right now, is what they're favored by.
really okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think Tennessee, if everything goes right, which I think that it will, and I hope that it will for Tennessee, I think that they'll win 45-24 because I think that Tennessee gives up at least three touchdowns. I'm assuming they give up at least one field goal as well. And I think Tennessee's scoring at least 5 touchdowns. So that's my prediction for the game.
Okay. Well, I'm not quite there, but I still think they win by double figures. I'm actually going to go a little bit lower than you. 38-27 Tennessee gets it done. You're still covering the spread, though. which is, I guess, good because great teams cover, as you say in the betting world. But no, I definitely think Tennessee wins this game just because, again, I think it can still take advantage of that defense, despite the fact that it is vastly improved from what it was last season. Because it was unbelievably bad last season, but it is at least somewhat competent this year. But I think if Joey Aguilar can keep his poise, unlike what we saw with Sam Levitt 3 weeks ago, that is something that should only play in Tennessee's favor, because he will not be out there throwing arm punts the entire time. All right, Jordan, that's about all I have for tonight. Anything else that we missed in the world of Tennessee football that came to your mind?
No, not that I can think of.
All right. Well, again, thanks to all of you guys for tuning in and watching us tonight. We really appreciate it. If you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe to Tennessee at the Voice of College Football. Again, we are live every single Monday at 8 Eastern Time. Also, additional programming notes. I don't know about you, Jordan. You might be with me, but myself, Andrew Miller, and potentially Christian Ballard of Mississippi State at the Voice of College Football will be live at 8 Eastern tomorrow night for a special Tennessee Mississippi State preview. Looking forward to hearing from them and especially getting their opinions on this matchup, seeing how morale is down there. I think it's fair to guess that it is much higher than it has been the last couple seasons, just since Mike Leach has passed away. But always here to fun. They're fun. Dyslexia. Always fun to hear from the other side of a game, and I think definitely in this case a team that you don't know, you don't always see much of in Mississippi State. So really looking forward to that tomorrow night. But that will do it for us tonight here on Tennessee Volunteers Live. For Jordan Binkley, I am Tucker Harlan. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow